Let's turn our attention to the economy now. President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria's economy has stabilized. He announced that government revenue targets for 2025 were met as early as August, with a promise of no further domestic borrowing. But as inflation bites and hardship deepens, many Nigerians are still asking, stabilized for whom? Let me remind you of what President Bola Tinubu said in that respect about the stabilized economy. This is in his own words.
I can brag that Nigeria is not borrowing, it's dying from local bank. The revenue, we have met our target of revenue for the whole year. We met it in August. I've reviewed this morning. Non-oil.
That's the president talking about a stabilized economy. Joining us to unpack the numbers and the realities and the road ahead is Dr. Paul, Chief Economist at SPM Professionals. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I first shot at you, and I was looking at something earlier, and I said to confirm, to say, looking at the record of my past program and my notes, I'm looking at it, and I see that under Buhari government, before Buhari came into office, inflation rate was at 9%. That's 2015 pre-Buhari administration. In 2021, inflation rate grew to 18.21%. Unemployment rate was still in the single digit.
9.6.
8%.
9.6 thereabout.
Yeah. It was less than 9 actually. 9%. Before Buhari. By the time Buhari left office, or even before Buhari left office, he stood at 33%. Debt profile grew from 12 trillion to over 30 trillion under Buhari government. Exchange rate went at 197 to the dollar before Buhari left, over 400. GDP growth rate, we had 2 recessions under Buhari. He met it at 2% growth rate. But under Buhari, we were in the negative as of 2021, -1, our GDP growth rate. So sometimes, in reality, we need to confront ourselves with that it is true that Bola Tinubu made a terrible economic indices. Terrible. Everything gone from Jonathan period into Buhari period into the double digits. Almost every of the indices, inflation rate, unemployment rate, food inflation, everything went in that direction. So Tinubu came into a terrible economy. But let me ask you, my first question to you, announcement months early. He also says citizens still face high food prices, fuel costs, and frequent strikes. From your own analysis, how do we reconcile the government's stabilization claim and the reality Nigerians live every day?
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me. And I want to thank Nigerians, especially watching us across the globe. I know Nigerians anytime they watch this interview. So it's true that 2/3 of the time, which means we still have 1/3 to do so many other things. But we need to be very careful in quoting what the president said. He did not say that we have met our expenditure target. He did not say we have met the whole of our budget target. He said we have met our revenue targets. In that budget, we have revenue and we have debts. The debts expectation is in trillions of naira. So it is not making a claim that we have covered, because if you check, Nigeria is still applying to collect some loans in spite of the announcement. So the announcement is for revenue. Well, my point will be that since we've made our revenue target, we might need to slow down debt. And I tell you for free, we're doing over 140 trillion naira today, and that number may grow to 200 trillion by 2027. So 200 trillion naira, because of course, naira is susceptible to devaluation over the years, since the 70s till date, it's always susceptible to devaluation. So we might need to slow down debt, especially when we collect foreign debt. Now, local debt has its own implication, which the president said they've not collected local debt, and that, of course, is healthy for the economy. But so that's fine on one hand. On the second hand, we also need to be wary because of a tendency to devalue the currency, which will now put further burden on the economy. Speaking about stability, when you talk about stability, we need to look at what are macroeconomic variables or macroeconomic indicators. One, we look at inflation. Inflation is around 21%, although it was 34%. We rebased the number to bring it down to about 24%, and we have seen successive reduction in inflation number. We are not yet there. The goalpost for inflation for Nigeria should be 4%, even though central bank says they are comfortable with single digits. To my mind, that will be 6 to 9%, where it was before the inauguration of President Buhari into office. That will be where we should go back to. But as we speak, even on rebased inflation, we're on 21%. Next is exchange rate, and this is very important. Exchange rate before, according to what you read today, was about 400. Today, we have it around 1,500, 1,600. I remember one day in August 2023, we were seated this position, but I'm not sure if it was the same jacket that we wore. But you asked me, where do you see exchange rate when it was going to about 800? It was August. And I told you the rest point, based on econometric number, will be 1,500. I saw a manner of comment on the Twitter when your organization posted it. That is not possible, prophet of doom. Today, what is the number? Yes, it went so high, and I will tell you why. It went so high till it got to 1,900 in January 2024, or was it 2024 or 2025? Government was very quick to reveal some of the strategies. Today, what central bank does is manage flows. And you ask me what should be done. I say it's manage flow. Today, government has gone to manage flows, which is why I have advised so many African countries. I've been privileged to speak to their representative that no African country today is positioned to speak to their representative that no African country today is positioned to float our currency perpetually. You might want to do it to attract some foreign investment, which we saw, although 92% of those inflows went to portfolio investment, and that accounts for 92% of what we have gotten, according to the report that we saw as a Q1 2025. So the foreign direct investment there is still very low. It's even less than $1 billion. But what we've gotten up to $5 billion, it's hot money, as we call it in finance, it's portfolio investment. Why is it hot? Because if anything happens and there's relative instability in the financial sector, or inflation goes back to what it used to be, or there any concern, investor, because it's hot money, they may just turn back the investor and decide to leave the country.
Right. I'll pause you for a moment, and I'll ask you, because Dr. Alaje, you're not on our sister program, Business Morning and the rest, where there are those who are interested in the numbers. My viewers are interested in the politics of the numbers. And I'd like to ask you direct questions. The first one, when the president says, look, the economy has stabilized, I look at it in a very plain manner that will affect the bottom line of the average Nigerian, about the food on their table. Is the economy stabilized to the point that the purchasing power of the Nigerian is stabilized? Okay. Is that a fact?
So, two things there. Yeah. What the president said, to me as an economist, is different from what you are saying. You are talking of inclusion. You are talking of growth reflecting in inclusion and in reflecting in people income distribution.
That's what my viewers are interested in.
Yes. If
the economy of their pocket and the food on their table is not stabilized.
So if that is what you are doing, it's not. But when you are talking of stability, in terms of exchange rate, in terms of inflation is coming down.
The volatility is no longer there.
So where do you
and a few naira difference, yes, not substantial, 200, exactly. 300 naira that we other say.
The percentages is smaller, is lower. So you can say it's now stable. Although we must show some level of caution. so that we don't become overexcited, then now start making policy on those, because other parameters need to also converge. We have seen relative convergence between what parallel markets and official rates are saying. And that's reserved, I mean, that deserves some credit. But the question is, at what line do we have this stability? At 400 or at 1,500? You see the gap between 400 and 1,500 is quantum, is a quantum.
It's a lot.
And that gap means there are people whose capacity can afford 400 but cannot afford 1,500. That is why Nigeria, when you map that out times the number of people, because economy is a cost of number at the end of the day. When you look at people that have been left out between 400 to 1,500, multiply the number, it tells you the quantum level of people that might have been left out. So what we should look at as policies, how do we lead this, how do we turn this stability to growth, and how do we make this growth inclusive?
So now, the other question I would like to ask you, which for me, because I'll come to whether our revenue target, as the president said, is being met, is also something that is substantial and that probably will reflect the new hope agenda. Because when this good news, and I don't capitalize on the bad news. I love the good news and I capitalize on them. But look, you need to find the value of the good news in relativity to the average living of the Nigerian people. So the question I'm going to ask next is, have we been able to vary our economy in terms of the focus of it? No, we are a mono economy. Our economy basically relied on the oil sector. Has anything changed in the last 2 years?
I think so. I think so, because even though the numbers are not yet released, but when you listen to what the president said, I listened to it almost 10 times. He said most of the revenue came from non-oil sector. For me,
that's good news.
That's a big
deal.
That's a
it's showing
changer.
Production.
Yes. So
and
what he's
I'm
saying,
hearing now that manufacturing is contributing a lot.
Exactly.
And that's good news.
So that's also good news. Now, we now need to see, when the report comes out, manufacturer will now speak. Either we are going to the factory to check, or we are pulling opinion, whatever method we use. Is this really reflecting? It will be too hasty to say that that statement is not correct, that statement is doctored, that statement is political because of the environment where it's said. I think it will be in a haste to judge. What we'll have is that we have good news that have been mentioned by Mr. President. He has said that revenue target is met. He has also said that most of this revenue came from non-oil sector. Ask me anytime, any day, I will count that as big news and a big difference for Nigeria. You know that we have not even started implementing the tax reform yet. We have not started implementing.
January.
It's in January. So if we have this kind of announcement now, it means that the tax reform might also meet a very good background that we have already created.
Since the revenue and the assurance that the new regime of tax will meet is that we are likely to have a more transparent, rather than the opaque system that we operate. And we've seen ingenuity. That guy at FRS, very a genius, first class. Zach.
He finished for me first. I finished for me first. So I'm not surprised.
You guys should have come to University of Ilorin.
No, it's great fair. I'm sure you're. Please
used to be.
Don't go into that, because
never my dream.
Your viewers.
Never my dream.
No. I know it's the school you didn't get that you went to Ilorin, so it's fine.
No. Do you know what we say in University of Ilorin? Better by far. I bagged 2 degrees from there, and you could see.
I understand it. I know University of Ilorin is better, but it's not the best. We are talking of the best university.
Dr. Alaje,
well, whether we'll go back.
We'll go to break. Let's go to break. We'll be right back to show whether the revenue announcement as made by the president is going to impact positively on the monies in your pocket, the food on your table. That's my concern right here. Oh, of course, is President Tinubu also towing into what Peter Obi is saying, from consumption to production? Are we producing more in the last 2 years? Not a good one. After the break, it looks like there is a big conspiracy around there. There are a lot of people who went to a university situated in the center of a village in Ife. And there's been I didn't know that there are a lot of them around here. But those of us who stand out from better universities, let's continue the conversation. And Dr. Alaje, I would like us to conclude this conversation around the future of this country in terms of, yes, we're seeing some good news, whether or not Nigerians should be hopeful. Are we producing more? Does the number tell us that we're producing more? especially based on what the president said?
Yeah, first of all, I will always stand to say that Nigeria should hope for the best. I will never give up on Nigeria. Why? Because I'm here. I'm even here. I don't have any other passport, so it would be foolish of my person to say that, oh, this country will be doomed, it will not be good for the country. If not, I have options. I could have left the country the way many people have abandoned the country, hoping that another person will fix it. So let's be here. If there are issues, we discuss it. Now, are we producing more? I don't think we are producing enough. But this is what I think we need to do. Urban poor is over 75%. What does that mean? When you put 4 people together, 3 of them are living below poverty line. That's not my figure. It's according to World Bank. 63%.
So 31 million people are now being affected by the inflation.
Yes, more in addition.
Yeah, then and there are more people now that have been thrown into poverty in the last 2 years.
Exactly, and this is the time we have the fastest number of people join the poverty bracket in our recent history. Why? Because inflation has been stubborn, has been perpetually. The central bank is doing a lot to raise NPR to combat inflation.
There are 2 people I don't pity. I don't envy them at all. If I were Wale Edun, I don't know if I'm going to take that job. The man walked into problem. Yemi Cardoso, he walked into the toughest and the dirtiest environment.
Yeah, but I think recently he's trying. I must say, you know, I've been very hard on the 2 institutions. But I think the central bank is making some very good policy. This time, I only hope that some of those policies will be sustained. For instance, relaxing NPR shouldn't be now. We may need to wait a bit more, especially because some of the inflation number we are seeing, they are outliers. I didn't say they are lies. I'm saying they are outliers because they are 2 different things. So we need to wait to have a full year cycle, which is what I said the first time, before we can consider easing the rate or not.
My question is whether Jumoke is doing a good job at trade, because whether the FDI is improving, we need to bring a lot of attention, reduce our import dependency, and also ensure that our exportation increases. Let us put some value. I love to see the figures, have conversation with Jumoke to let us know what exactly are we, in terms of the FX that we're exchanging, what our, and I mean, I'm hearing that even our numbers is good against our exchange with the United States, for example, our trade exchange with the United States. But the big question here, we're going into a very interesting election year, 2020. It started earlier than any election year. And don't forget, go and look at history. Every election year has impacted negatively on our economy.
Yeah. So
from 2011, for example, 2015, I think 2015 it was even worse. After those elections, our economy were badly hit.
So here is it. Even the danger starts more with the pre-election year. Behavior of politicians will determine whether we are going to have another great 4 years or another horrible 4 years. And this is what I want President Tinubu to do. Warn politicians, all inclusive, from federal to local government, no exchange of foreign currency to delegates or for whatever. Because if we do this, the little sign of positivity that we are seeing will evaporate overnight, honestly. Because when anything happens to exchange rate, don't believe me, believe the Bureau of Statistics, 80% of all imports are all, final goods, 80% of all final goods are imported to Nigeria. When you make exchange rate scarce because we are using it for elections, I tell you, people might tell you that things will be better soon. Look at how long it has taken us. From 2015, we are beginning to see some little sign of a difference. I hope, because we still have a long way to go. Before this impact people, which is what many people might be asking me on X, that when do you think? At least if it continue like this, you might start seeing some changes in 3 to 4 years, provided that 2027 elections, starting with next year, there are not too much or there are no distribution of foreign currency. But if we do, and you start seeing it on our stadium, you are seeing people exchanging money, I'm sorry, the economy may go back to where it is that we are
God
praying.
forbid it does.
But God forbid. That is why we are giving, ahead. Notice that, so that you don't say that, oh, how did you just get it overnight?
Paul, Alaje, thank you so much indeed. But the biggest warning here is that things get bad quickly. And it gets better so slowly, sluggishly. So we need to be warned. And politicians need to be careful. Thanks so much, Dr. Paul Alaje. I appreciate it. Well, that's our show tonight. Everyone, many thanks for watching.